Hello, it's Scott Manley here. It's October 1st and this is Deep Space Network, and nothing is working. I cannot find my video camera, so I've got this crappy web camera. I have been unable to get the time to cut my hair, so it is very fuzzy and inefficient. And also, US federal government shut down completely, which means there is only a skeleton crew at NASA right now. Thankfully, there is a skeleton crew because they are able to coordinate observations of Comet Ison, which is making a close approach to Mars as we speak. 0.07 AU. It will provide a more awesome show later in the year, hopefully, towards November. Hopefully, the whole shutdown thing gets resolved before November, because right now Maven has to hit its launch window in November. If it doesn't, it will have to wait until 2016 before it gets a chance to go to the Red Planet. That would be rather unfortunate. Speaking of the Red Planet, Mars Curiosity rover discovered water in the soil, roughly 2% by mass of the soil, which is really quite amazing because that is a significant amount of water. It means that if astronauts go there, they will not really have much trouble collecting water for their own use. They will pretty much just take up a pile of soil and heat it up and the water will come off. Hopefully it won't transform them into zombies like they did in Doctor Who. Now, while NASA may find its employees sent home, other space organizations and companies are continuing their great work. The Russian Space Agency launched 3 more astronauts to the International Space Station, which has also been visited by the Cygnus cargo spacecraft launched by Orbital Sciences, that has successfully docked after some problems with its initial rendezvous. And finally, SpaceX launched the first version of their Falcon 9 1.1, which has modified the layout of rockets on it. It launched a satellite into orbit. It was also notable because it launched from California, and the attempt to restart the engines in flight with some problems. They wanted to try soft landing the first stage in the ocean, but the vehicle apparently spun up, and because of the rotation, the fuel all ended up centrifuging to the sides of the tanks, and the rocket failed to fire for more than a fraction of a second. However, it is a good start, and no doubt the problems will be solved, and we will have soft landing of first stage boosters anytime now. Now, while we're talking about crashing rockets, I should mention Danny2462, who has just managed to reach 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. That is quite a number, and it is well deserved, every single one of them. You should go and check out his channel and have a good laugh at his sense of humor, which I clearly do not have. The really big news in the gaming world has, of course, been Valve's announcements. Well, there's been 3 announcements and 1 little leak that perhaps may point to bigger things. So early in the week, last week, they announced the Steam operating system, which is of course a custom version of Linux designed to run the Steam client and enable a bunch of games to be played locally and streamed in theory. Secondly, they announced a Steam box, Steam hardware essentially, which we will be seeing at some point in the future. And finally, they announced a dedicated Steam controller, which is interesting. It looks like a kind of PlayStation, like a console gamepad, but with touch pads instead of actual joysticks. It looks to me like a DJ controller that was designed by someone that didn't actually DJ, but it remains to be seen how well this works out. It will probably become like a default target for many people developing games, since it'll be supported by Valve. And of course, the secret bit of information they accidentally let loose was somebody registered the trademark Half-Life 3 in Europe, and while this may point to future adventures for the world's most badass physicist, Gordon Freeman, it may also point to simply trying to control their trademarks in the face of people saying Half-Life 3 confirmed all the time. Now, on Thursday last week, CCP had a live TV event where they basically launched EVE Online Rubicon, and they revealed it will be arriving rather early. Late November will be when we get to see it. The theme will be basically that capsuleers are starting to really exert more control over high security space. As such, it means that the customs office that until now had been controlled by Interbus will now be controllable by players, which means that players will be able to control planetary access in high security space. They're also adding a number of structures which can be anchored in space and attacked without Concord getting in the way. There will be an object that lets you siphon off materials from reaction silos. There will be a salvaging thing that you just drop and it pulls down pulls all the wrecks towards it. There will be a mobile fitting station, and there will be an anchorable Sino disruptor which will stop Sino beacons within a certain radius. Also, the rebalancing continues with the Marauders, of course, getting their Bastion mode that makes them super badass but unable to move. Interceptors will become immune to the effects of warp bubbles, and we get a number of new faction ships from the Sisters of Eve. These will be Tech 1 ships designed for exploration and capable of fitting covert ops cloaks. Now, over in the X universe, they just released another video which specifically talks about industry and trading, and it's really quite an interesting watch. What they're going to do is, instead of being able to load your spaceship with millions of tons of cargo and instantly load and unload that, instead most of the cargo carrying will be carried out by third-party ships, which will take a little more time to load and unload. Instead, you are going to be the foreman for this company, you're going to be the manager, you will be giving the orders, you will tell them to unload, and then you will see spacecraft loading and unloading their materials. There's a whole lot more detail in the video, go and check it out, it's over at the Egosoft page. Over at Cloud Imperium Games, of course, they continue to print money. They made their 20 million goal and they're now halfway to the 21 million goal. It helped that they published an article which clarified how multiple accounts will work and how you will be able to have several accounts on the same account, which led to a lot of people investing more money so they would have multiple characters on their single account. And at the other end of the crowdfunding scale, we have two Kickstarters to check out. One is Pulsar, The Lost Colony, which is something like Artemis Bridge Simulator with the ability to get up inside your spaceship and run around with your pants on fire as your ship goes on fire and you try to fix things. It's looking kind of interesting. It is very, very early beta. I've kind of liked the way it's going right now. I hope it succeeds. The other one to check out is Factory Wingman, which has previously been featured on this channel and is a brilliantly enjoyable team deathmatch in space sim with awesome ship design, awesome, just magnificent racial design. It looks fantastic. And it plays really well, and it was not funded last time, so this time around, let's make sure it gets funded. It is a great game, and it deserves your money. It's by 9 Dot Studio out in Quebec, and their Kickstarter is running right now. Get over there and pledge. Now, for the more strategically minded, Planetary Annihilation has just gone from alpha into beta, and that means that the price has dropped. So if the price was putting you off previously, now is a good time to get in and take a look at this game, which of course is a grand space strategy simulator whose novelty is that they let you drop giant rocks on your opponents. And I approve of this because it raises awareness of rocks dropping on us. Now, speaking of dropping asteroids on things, this week there was a conference arranged in Houston. It was the Asteroid Initiative Idea Synthesis Workshop. This was to collect a bunch of smart people together to talk about, detecting asteroids and mitigating their potential threat to Earth. Unfortunately, because of the government shutdown, the conference stopped after one day. However, the B612 Foundation, being awesome people as they are that are interested in it, they stepped up and they created the Unconference, which was basically a free-form meeting in the same area with the same people who had obviously spent all this money to come out to this conference. Hopefully great things come out of this nonetheless. Oh yeah, and that car that everyone was asking about, what I ended up buying, well, I ultimately went with a Chevy Volt. I wasn't really a huge fan of Chevy, to be honest, but theirs was the only plug-in that was capable of traveling 30 to 40 miles on pure electric charge. The next step up from that was essentially something like a Tesla, which would be nice, but I don't really have the money. Although it is good to see that the Tesla is now America's best-selling luxury car, depending upon where you draw the line between regular and luxury. But honestly, I am really happy with it, and there's a lot of misinformation floating around, but trust me, I am thinking it's a great car to have. And with that, it's time for me to drive off into the sunset. I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.